So this is a very fundamental question. How did we land up on the name Chosenly? I remember Udayan was Udayan did not like the name at all, and he did not want to name the company Chosenly. But what? Why did we end up naming it Chosenly?
Oh, I think this went through a journey, right? So when we was first discussing this, one obvious thing that some external folks said, hey, just yeah, you have spear growth. Now just launch spear search, right? You have the same brand recall, you have everything. But I'll give you a checklist that we followed by naming. And by the way, even spear growth doesn't qualify for one of them. So one of the points in the checklist, I have a problem with the word spear, because spear, it sounds, you can call it spear, but it when you're saying it, it might also, people might also think about sphere.
Ah, okay.
Right now there can be a little bit of confusion. It's not a big deal, but there can be a little bit of a confusion there, right? Also, spear growth is it's not like two syllables and stuff, right? So not as great of a name as chosen. You see, I like sort of skipped that, but yeah, that was the first suggestion ever, right?
Yeah.
Now from there, we didn't even name the company first of all, right? So we first decided, hey, this was the most unemotional launch ever. We first decided, hey, let's build the backend, see if it sells, and we even sold it under the domain aisearchoptimization.com. So the logo literally was not a logo; it was literally, we typed out AISO
Yeah.
in the place of a logo, and that was it. That's how we launched, that's how we sold, that's how we got our first 5 customers, right, under AI. So that's when we decided that, hey, you know what, this is a real thing, we need to make a company. That's when we tried to even started naming things. So we went through 2 iterations before we ever decided to name it, and we post money before we had think of naming the company or anything.
Hmm. Yeah, but again, how did we name it Chosenly?
I think so. There's a thread that we started, I think in April, right? So in April, we finally started a thread in Slack where I gave some directives. Okay, the
Yeah.
directives were um, essentially that, hey, we should be able to get the .com domain. That was important to me. The reason behind a .com domain is because, one, it gives authority, all of that stuff. It's some slightly additional level of trust, but also a lot of people still have a habit of, when someone says, hey, I work at Chosenly. If you go to the browser, they might Google it, but there's a very small chance people might also just search for chosenly.com by default. So you might miss out on a little bit of that direct traffic that you would have gotten otherwise,
Yeah.
right? So that plus also IO and AI and stuff, even though it's getting more and more popular, it's still
Yeah.
like switchable between IO and AI, right? So anyway, so that was the first thing. We should have the .com domain. The second thing is that shouldn't be a word that we have to spell every time we name it, right? So yeah, sphere is a good example, even though it's not that big of a issue. But worse offenders are things like, those double, like single L's, or you'll just, like, you'll take a like, one of the names we were thinking was Luminate, right? Like Luminate, because, hey, light, and we'll help you, like illuminate your presence or whatever.
Got
But
it.
then, but then we also said Loom, Loom, Loom innate. Now, if we really named it that, we would have to spell out the name every single time. We would not be able to use it in a conversation. No one else would be able to use it in a conversation. A lot of people use those two double L's and stuff. Like just remove an L, add an L, like swirl with 2 L's or something. They'll do things like that. That's
Yeah.
very common with tech companies. So I wanted to avoid all of that. Um, that was the second thing. The third one was now, third one is, it should be easy to show up on our own name when someone searches on Google. This is important because SEO should be an option, right? Most SaaS companies should not even do SEO, and this is me. I've been doing SEO before Spear Growth, and I've been selling SEO for 4 years now. And then even after that, I say SEO should be an option. Most SaaS companies should not do SEO from the get go. Uh, but if you aren't showing up for your name, you have to do a little bit of SEO. You have to get a little bit of backlinks, and then make sure that you are the first result when someone Googles you. That needs to happen. And now, if you look at spear growth, when we were naming spear growth as a company, the when you search for spear growth, spear fishing would come up, right? Like the act of spear fishing and a few articles there, which means okay, it's very easy to replace them and show up for spear growth. With Chosenly, nothing did. I think the definition of chosen came up. So that was easy. And also, one more thing you want to look at here is sometimes you use a misspelling of a word. Like chosenly is chosen misspelled. So when you're doing something like that, right, make sure that Google is not auto-correcting the name. That's
Okay.
another tip, right? If it auto-corrected it to
Yeah.
chosen, we would never name it chosenly, right? So that's another important piece of it. And then I think the last one has, I think, two subsections. One is it should not stop us from pivoting in the future, right? So, for example, right now, Chosenly does AI search optimization as the only thing we do. But over time, we have broader ambitions. There are a few other things we want to build into the product. When I say over time, maybe 2 years down the line, 1 year down the line. So it's not like anytime soon, but a couple of years down the line, we have that's the real broader vision. And we want to, and that might just change over the year of building it, gaining insights. That broader vision might just change completely. So, but then the name should not be the reason why we logged in.
Yeah.
Um, right? That should be another one. And then I think it shouldn't have any associations. This is similar to the fourth point, but it shouldn't have any associations with concepts that we may want to disassociate with, right? Over time. For
Yeah.
example, again, very similar to fourth point, but it should not, the name should not have LLMs, SEO, ranking. Those words should not be in the name itself. So those were the five things. For obvious reasons, right? If you have SEO in the name, you cannot pivot, but also it brings a lot of preconceived notions to it.
Hmm.
Right now, I've been saying things like, "Hey, you know what? Um, this AISO is closer to product marketing and content. But if our name was LLM something, that would have sorry SEO something that would have been harder to bring other teams to us." So yeah, things like that you want to avoid. So, but so many these five rules, which are again, like should be able to get the .com name, should be able to easy. You don't have to spell it out. Third is it should be able to easy to rank for our own name in SEO. Fourth is it should be easy to pivot, and fifth is in today it shouldn't associate with us with things that may or may not be stuff that we want. So those were the five things, right? And you can see that AI search optimization.com, even though we were early in the space and we already own that, and maybe SEO for LLMs also ours, by the way. So we own all of those domains. We still didn't go ahead with that because even though those things help with SEO and also even helps with a little bit of, like, hey, if you don't know spear growth, but if I say, hey, you know what, I'm the founder of AI search optimization.com, gives me a little bit more of a swagger, even if you don't know both the companies, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway, so that's how we thought about the rules of choosing the name. And that's how we went through a lot of names and finally got to Chosenly.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, but you already answered it. Perfect.
Yeah, and then I think we paid a lot for this one. I think we paid a couple of $1,000s for this, right? I think we paid somewhere around $3 or $4,000 for chosenly.com, the name or the domain.
Okay.
Um, so that was interesting. I think this is the first time we paid for the name. Spear growth was basically like a 20, 30, 40, I don't know, whatever the default domains cost. That's what spear growth was. In case of Chosely, we actually paid for it. Um, and yeah, if the rules didn't exist, we would probably just name it, I would name it Puchka.
Why is that?
I mean, it's just fun. Like it breaks every single rule. But yeah, I would, if no rules existed, the rules that I set up myself, I would just name it Puchka, puchka.com. Would be so
And
much
I'm
fun.
sure none of the co-founders would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, they hated the name.
Yeah.
And but I thought it was hilarious. Imagine like Puchka is an Indian street food, and if I can just imagine Indian Udayin's parents just freaking out over him telling them that hey, he now sells puchkas.
Because
Anyway, yeah, it's
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Okay, cool.